everybody. My name's Eddie. We're at Woodcraft 337 here in Spokane Valley, Washington. And today we're going to talk about shop storage. So I get a lot of questions about how to set up the shop and what's the best way to do things. There are a lot of different answers, and I'm going to break a few myths today, I think, as well as expand a little bit of the way people think about shop storage. Let's start with one of the best ways to become efficient in your shop is to actually have everything organized. One of the worst things for me personally is I hate having to look for something. I go to do a project and I'm like, where's that at? I can't find it. It doesn't have a home, so it gets kind of left wherever. By everything having a home, as I like to say, a place for everything and everything in its place, makes it easy to get to that item when you need it and get back to work and not loss of productivity from having to search around trying to find the proverbial lost pencil and tape measure that we can never find, even though we have 16 of them each. So one of the biggest myths, and I hear this all the time, is drawers in the shop are where tools go to die. I hear that all the time. Drawers, that's where tools go to die. It's not necessarily true. Drawers have a very useful function in your shop if they're built and set up correctly for what you're doing. And before I get more into drawers, I'm going to kind of talk about cabinets and cupboards as well. And then we'll kind of go through the whole way that I set my shop up and organize my items. Because I hear a lot of negative thing about cabinets too. People are like, oh, cabinets, they're horrible because, things just get pushed in and shoved to the back, and you can never find what you're looking for in that cupboard because once you put something in front of it, you'll never find it.
Explain this as a Q&A.
And so today I want everybody to feel free to ask questions as we go along and interject, and I'll be glad to answer them. This is going to be more of a interactive Q&A versus a straight demo. I know I've got a lot of stuff up here on the table, but it's actually more for just giving you some ideas versus these are not what the video is about. What the video is about is how to set up your shop and make it the most efficient way for you to function and increase your productivity. So with that said, the way I look at it is I don't really like lower cupboards. I don't know if they can see these on the camera, Joel, here, but they're just like typical kitchen cabinet cupboards down below. Those I don't think are efficient for a shop. However, overhead cabinets and cupboards that you would have on the wall, such as you have in your kitchen, have a great place in your shop. And the reason for that being is generally your lower cabinets and cupboards are 24 inches deep. That's 2 feet of things to get lost and pushed to the back. Plus you have to squat down to see what's in the back, and we generally don't do that. Whereas overhead cabinets are generally about 12 inches deep, which is much less depth, which allows you to put things in there. As long as you're putting the right items in those storage. Like for me, I like to put a lot of my 1 gallon paint cans, my stain cans, things like that. They're at an easy height to reach, and they really can't get pushed very far back because there's not a lot of depth. So I can access those and get to them. When it comes to my lower cabinets, that's when I'm a drawer lover, and I really like drawers as an efficient way to store things. However, I don't think drawers can be cookie cutter. I don't think you can just go buy a bunch of drawers in a cabinet and make it work. In my shop, I custom made all my drawers to my tools and my setup. And by doing that, we eliminate the ability to do the same thing that happens in cupboards, whereas you start filling a drawer up and things get lost to the bottom. So for instance, I have all my marking and measuring tools in a drawer. That drawer is only 2 inches deep. It's got a 3-inch drawer front on the front. Makes everything nice, one level, nothing gets buried, and I can access my items. And then as my items get thicker, I start doing taller drawers towards the bottom, where I may have saws or jigsaws or grinders or things that need a home, and I can store those. But by keeping the depth of the drawer accurate to the height of what you're putting in there, eliminates the we're getting lost in a drawer and we're going to die there. Now, one of the reasons that I am a big advocate for cupboards and drawers in the first place is cleanliness. As we all know in shops, dust is dust. I don't care, you can spend all the money in the world, you're still gonna have dust in a shop. But most of us do not have super elite dust collection systems with super duper air filter systems all over shop. So we're making dust, it's getting in the air. And when you have all your stuff out, all it does is like everything else, it just collects dust. By keeping them in the drawers, I can keep my tools clean and they're not getting all dirty and covered with dust, and makes them much nicer and easier to use. So when you're thinking about your shop layout, that's kind of how you want to think about your setup, is how you want your tools organized and how you want them laid out, and figure all that out in advance. And then build your storage to suit your needs. The other thing I think is really important is keeping your drawers and your organization in a systematic system that allows you to keep everything together that fits together. So if you've got an area where this is where you're always doing your sanding, and this is your workbench, and this is where I'm doing my sanding, those drawers nearest there is going to have my sandpaper, my sanding blocks, my rubber grip mat for the table to hold my items so it doesn't move around while I'm sanding, attachments for my shop vac for cleaning up after sanding, tack cloths, etc. And then when it comes to other areas where near my router, that's where I'm going to have my router bits and all those other items. So you really want to know how your shop is laid out and build your storage appropriately to that, versus building the shop with lots of cupboards and drawers everywhere, and then you try to make that work for how your workflow works. And so that doesn't work very well. You end up running back and forth. You've got stuff over here, and because it fit better in a drawer over here, so you put it halfway across the room. So every time you want a new piece of sandpaper or anything like that, you have to go and grab that across the room. So I firmly believe that both cabinets as well as drawers have a place in the shop. My shop has a lot of drawers and a small amount of cabinets and cupboards. I don't have a ton of them because I don't have a lot of items that fit the criteria of what I would put into a cabinet. However, for my paints, my stains, my spray paints, trying to think what else I have in cupboards at my place. All my glues, things like that, bulk storage, those are great to go into cupboards. Everything else I like drawers for. And when I built my drawer system, I literally measured every tool that I had, figured out where everything was going, and then used dividers. And so like my pneumatic air guns are all stand up on end, and I have dividers, so each gun has a slot that it slides into. Keeps it easy to grab. My guns don't get all tangled up in each other, and it's just nice to walk in there and grab one, and when I go to put it back, I've got an empty slot, and I know it slides right into that slot. And that is something that we're looking into doing here in the near future, is doing a remote video, and so we're going to keep our eyes out for that in the future. And it'll give you a little more idea of how things are going. So, moving on from cupboards and drawers, other ways that we organize our shop are, we can use things like bins, we can use tool holders, we can use tool clips, We've got magnetic bars, and I'm going to go into each one of these a little bit more later. And then peg hooks. When I have a tool such as my CNC machine, I know I've got a 1/2 inch wrench, I've got a 9/16 wrench, I've got my ear protection. I'm trying to think what else hangs right on that side there, but the tools I use constantly in changing bits and working with my CNC hang on peg hooks right on the wall, right next to my machine. So I can always just grab those and make my adjustments and put them back. And I'm not going all the way over to my socket or a wrench drawer to get what I need and come back. I keep those dedicated tools right there in that location. I'm not a big, peg hooks all over the place and every wrench and every hammer hangs up there. To me, that's just a lot of wall space that gets used up for something that I don't use a lot. In my wood shop, I don't use wrenches a lot. I do have a drawer full of them of every size that I can use, but most generally the times I use a wrench are for tool adjustments and blade or bit changes, and so I keep those tools handy with that item that they go to. I'm a firm believer in not having dead space in my shop. As we all know, your footprint for most of us is pretty fixed. We have a certain amount of square footage and that's all we got. We don't really have a lot of room to expand or change. So we always have to make do with what we got. So for instance, if I have a bench like this, the last thing I want to do is take up this much floor space and have all this dead open area underneath it. I'm going to put drawers in there and storage cabinets that I can use to store more items, and I'm not losing any footprint space out of my shop. And it keeps everything nice and clean and organized, and I can get to it. For instance, I have a table like this for my MIDI lathe that I do most of all my pen and bottle stop turning at. All of my hardware kits and all of my extra pen blanks and bottle stopper blanks, all that stuff, sandpaper is kept right in those drawers. Again, easy access. I'm right at the lathe. That's where I'm going to need them. I've got my polishing compounds. I got my friction fluid, I guess you call it. I can't remember the technical name for it, but the high-speed friction polish. That's what it's actually called. So it's really nice to have everything right where you need it. The other thing we like to have is tool holders, so when you're working on the lathe, it's nice to be able to just have slots where we can put all of our gouges and roughing and finishing and hollowing tools, and we can grab that out, use it, slide it right back into place. Because one thing we all know about lathes, they like to vibrate things off of tables when we have our lathe on a table or a stand. So when you set it down, and all of a sudden you hear this clang, bang, bang, and there goes your nice sharp lathe tool bouncing around on the floor. So it's nice to have those type of items there. Hey Joel, have we got any questions yet, or we're doing okay? All right. So I'll go on a little bit. So for the hobbyist shop who's got lots of screwdrivers and lots of awls, AWLS, small precision tools and stuff like that, this kind of an item is a really great organization rack. It's got lots of every different size on there, mounts to the wall real easily, and allows you to keep things organized, as well as you can see the bottoms of them, so it's easy to pick out the tool that you want, versus some of them where they slide in and you can't see underneath, so you're kind of pulling it out to check to see which each tool is as you do it. This one here is actually item number 163632. It's the Wood River Red Tool Rack. Another one we have, this one's a little more heavy duty, a little more basic. It's got some holes and some flat slots in it. And this is the Wood River Router Bit and Accessory Storage Rack. And this one here is item number 163688. And this one's actually really great for router bits, because of the size of the holes, it really allows you to just kind of slide them in there. If you don't have a huge collection of router bits, works great for that. Parts trays, got lots of these. Most of them have some sort of holder, such as this one here. You just pop the front down on this guy, and he's got 4 or 5 of them in there, which is really great, especially for a lot of us, that use very small parts, and bushings for turning is a great way to store them in there, keeping them organized, and a label maker can label them right on top. It's a great way to keep all your stuff systematically together, as well as easy to find. This is actually my single guy, he goes over there. And then in the top up here, you can have some random small tools that fit in there. Great little storage item, put them up on a shelf, and you got all those different items there at your ease. These tip out drawer bins are great for the screws and items that you use on a constant basis. A lot of us, like the Craig pocket hole jig, and we've got 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch screws. You've got the wood plugs, all those different items, and this is a great way to store them. You can tip the bin out, grab a few of them, and keeps them organized. When it comes to my gold screws or my larger screw collections, I really like this bin system here. This one here is much larger bin trays, but the nice thing is you can pull each bin out individually. So when you need some gold screws, you can pull that bin out, take it to where you're working, use a bunch of the screws and bring them right back and put them right into their home. This here is item number 164510, and it's the Wood River tilt-out bins. Those are the large bins. Then we have the small tilt-out bins, and that is 171902, and that's an 8-door tip-out bin. Smaller containers in that one there, great for the smaller parts. This is actually a great little system right here for your Craig collection, because it pretty much has the right number of drawers to have most of the basic Craig pocket hole screws, as well as the plugs for filling in after you've put the screws in there. This here is another great little guy. I have one of these in my shop, and I actually use it for my table saw, anti-rust, and sliding spray that we carry here, rust-free. And so it's kind of hard to see. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just pull this guy out here. It'll be a little easier to see. But he's great because he's got lots of heavy-duty magnets. And my refrigerator in my shop is literally right next to my table saw. So this guy just magnet right onto my refrigerator door, and I keep my rust cleaner, and then my what is the stuff, Joel?
T80, T90, T90. Lubrication?
Yeah, it's a lubricant for your table saw, and keeps everything moving smoothly, as well as preventing rust on the cast iron top. So I keep both of those in there, and this also got a few screwdriver tips. I keep my Allen key in there for adjusting my saw stop, depth gauge, and then I have a few other ones for my router table that's attached to my saw stop. So it's really nice to have all those dedicated tools in an easy to grab location, and I don't have to go looking for them. I know right where they're at. And I never have to remember, is it an M6 or an M4 or what size is that Allen head? I just grab the tool that's right there, it's the correct one. So let me pop this back in here. This one also gives you a couple little bonus magnet hooks. These are really nice. If you got anything like an open-end wrench, you can hang it on there. They're pretty strong magnets. They're not rare earth, but they're pretty strong. I will tell you though, there are 6 heavy-duty magnets on the back of this, and when it hits that refrigerator, it locks on there. So I put some pretty full cans in there, and the thing itself has some weight. It doesn't move. So it's a good product, and I really like it.
Pretty good on a lathe too.
Yes, and yeah, it'll stick to, anything metallic, so if you wanted, it wouldn't really be good for, tools, because it doesn't have a all the way through hole slot in, except for the screwdrivers. But yeah, it's a great way to keep those spray cans handy, and a couple of screwdrivers for making adjustments. So moving on, let's see what other things. I don't have anything to demo, but one of, I'll get to that one in a minute. Joel's pointing out some magnetic bars for clamps. I'll just get to it right now. So we've got these really great 8, 12, and 18-inch magnet sets. And these have really powerful, strong magnets in them. Use, they've got holes on the end so you can screw them to a wood surface or onto your wall there. And then they're magnetic, so anything that's metal can stick to it. One of the ways that we use it in our classroom here is for our Craig clamps. So you can just slap your clamps right along them, so you could just take all 3 of these, put them in a nice long row. And it's a great way to store your hand clamps that are metal that we use, such as for the Craig AccuTrack system, as well as the pocket hole clamps for locking those down. So that's another great way to keep storage. And again, it's always nice to have that stuff in a nice, easy to get access location and go from there. So table saw blades, I get a lot of people that come in and start, well, that's a great way to store table saw blades. Because for those of us who change our blades frequently and don't just stick with a combination blade, we want to protect the carbide tips of the saw blade, and we don't want them getting all chinged up and messed up. One of the great things that I came across, and it's not 100% my idea, I did see somebody else use something similar, and I just kind of adopted it a little bit to myself, was the metal file folder holders that you see in like dentists and doctors' offices, and they have like 8 or 10 deep, and they put all their patient files in there. If you get the 12-inch version of that, and then you buy the heavy-duty hanging file folder holders, and you duct tape the sides closed on those, you can actually slide your saw blade into it and then slide that folder into the holder, and it makes it really easy to keep all your blades in a nice organized fashion to get to each one. But the hanging file folder actually creates a nice protection, so that as you're putting it in and out of the rack, you're not chipping the carbide teeth. And that makes a really great storage feature and easy to access those saw blades. Any questions we've gotten there, Joel?
Yeah, I'm going to have a question here. What's a good way to show off or to store your lathe tools?
Okay, so what Joel has asked is, Joel's one of our house lathe turners. Like, that's his favorite thing to do. He's always liking to make really beautiful and creative turnings on his lathe. So he's got lots of different lathe tools and how to store them. One of the great ways to do that is a wall cabinet, nice shallow cabinet. And what you can do is you can actually just take a nice 2-inch board. You want to?
Let's go.
Let's take it on over there. All right, so follow me on over here, Joel, and we'll do the old-timey step as we go over to the storage cabinet. So a couple months ago, store manager came in and asked me to, come up and expand our storage system. We kind of already had one going, and we expanded on it. So what I did here is I took some plywood, and I don't think these are locked. We need a handle on them. That would definitely, there we go. So I've got 1.25 inch holes drilled up here, which is the size for these tools here. You may have different size tools, you'll need different size holes. And then on the bottom, I drilled a 1-inch hole, but then I cut through slots on the side. So it allows you to actually pull the lathe tool out, but when the lathe tool is in there, it locks it nice and tight and it doesn't fall out of its holder because the top piece is keeping it up in there. So, and keeping all the bits off of the floor is important. You don't want to be getting your tips caught up there. But it's just a really great way to store the lathe tools. You get them out, use them. Keeping it right next to your lathe is a great place. And by having doors on it, it will keep all the flying debris from when you're doing your lathe turning, especially if you're doing acrylics, because we know how those streamer ribbons love to fly off the acrylic. So, put those in there like that. And you know, so these guys here, these are a little bit smaller, but you know, they're just enough height that we can get them in there and lock those in. On this side over here, we had a few of them that were, you know, pretty tall, and we didn't run out of space. So what we've done here, take these three out, is we have 2 pieces of wood. Can you see that in the?
Not really, but let's see if I can zoom in.
So what we've got here basically is just 2 pieces of wood. It was 1 piece of wood, and we drilled 3 holes in it that were 1 1/4 inches, and then we cut it right in half, and so we ended up with 2 rocking trays basically, so that we can store 3 tools in here, and they won't roll around or back and forth into each other, because when that happens, we can start banging our tips together, and then we dull the tool, or even damage it with chipping. So that's another great way there. It keeps them nice and organized, and they sit there and not going to roll out on you when you shut the cabinet door. So that's a great storage idea right there, just a way to keep them hanging up there. Even if you don't have the cabinet, the principle still works the same. Like this, if you just wanted to do a wall unit on the wall. So what I did here on the back, there's actually a piece of plywood, and I've used that to hold the 2 pieces at the appropriate height, and then it can just be attached to the wall as one unit. So. All right, well, let's move back over to the, or go on a swing by. Let's take the roundabout way. Let's come on this way here. And, we can stop right here. So we've got some peg hooks here. This is a really great way to store your electrical cords and air hoses are on peg hooks like this on the wall. It makes it easy to just come up, grab the cord that you want, wrap it back up, and keeps them organized, because we know that if you ever set these down together, they like to just become one big ball of messed up cords that are hard to get undone. So that's a great way to store those right there. Also on the top, you'll see up here, that's a great way if you got some long skinny strips or dowels. It's a great way to store those up there. So come on down this way here. This is an old school version of the same magnetic bars that I showed you there, but this is what we're talking about, where this is just a great way to have a clamp, locks right onto there, and you just know where it goes. It's got a vacancy, so it goes right there. Obviously, it looks like we got to get a little bit more magnet because we ran out of space. But yeah, it's just a really great way to have things where you need them when you want them. All right, so we'll move back around this way over here. And, you know, again, it's a great way to keep, you know, supplies handy. First aid kits always need to be handy and easy to get to. One of the things I've seen many times is that people have great first aid kits and they have everything they need in there. The issue is they can't remember where it's at, or it's buried under 14 other things. Always make sure that your first aid kits are easy to get to. And because in an emergency, last thing you want to do is be trying to dig through the drawer and hold your hand together. Hopefully that never happens. And again, by keeping things organized like this, you're more likely to use it, because more likely than not, if somebody looks for about 3 seconds and they don't find their safety glasses or ear muffs, they're just going to do it anyway and go on with their work. If it's easy to find, and multiple pairs. I have about 3 sets of ear protection in my shop in different locations. That way, I know it's always easy and handy to get to, and I'm not carrying it halfway across the shop to my CNC when I'm over there, and then I gotta pick it up and carry it all the way back to the saw stop. So just a great way to keep those together, your shields. Glue cabinets. I got something similar to this in my shop, and I really like, I keep my tape in a drawer. Again, it's a 2-inch deep drawer, but all my glues I like to keep up like this where I can easily get to them. I can see all my CA glues, and I got my wood glue, whether it's Type Bond 1 or 2 or 3 that's waterproof, you know, we can grab whatever it is. And again, whether it be cupboard doors or sliding glass, plexiglass doors like this, it just keeps the dust down and allows you so you don't have to go clean that out. All right, so we will make our way back over this way. Have we come up with any more questions there, Joel?
No.
All right, so we'll go on a little more. We got a couple more items here we can go over. This Toolbar Shark is really great concept here. And this works on the squeeze clamp process. So basically it allows you to use random size tools with each clip because they expand and contract to the tool that they're holding. So it's a great way to keep things handy up on the wall with those there. I don't think we've got anything else. Oh yes, and wood storage, one of the biggest things. So this is item number 152860, and it's the Boroformate wood rack. They are 12 inches deep, and there are 6 shelves in here. And it makes it really nice, especially if you have a lot of different varieties of wood and just a small selection of each one to keep them sorted. You have very short height shelves, but you have multiple of them so you can separate your walnut from your maple, from your cherry, from your purple heart. It makes it a lot easier to get to. With mine, what I did was I actually took a piece of 1/4 inch plywood and ripped it down to 12-inch strips and put that on top of the orange bars so I could put my shorter cutoffs in there and didn't have to worry about spanning over and having a full 4-foot piece and having it fall through. So great way to get your wood above the ground. Another way that these can be used is you can actually install them vertically, and then you can use them to stand your lumber upright on the wall and keep them so they're perpendicular to the floor. And that is actually my preferred method, and actually in the store, that's the way that we store our wood here. I know I've had a lot of people in the past say, oh no, your wood's gonna bow, it's gonna sag, it's gonna do this. It's really not. If you keep your wood at the right angle and you keep it perpendicular and upright with slight angle to it, there's no sideways pressure for it to cause a bow and a sag. The problem is when you put your wood like this, and now you've got a sagging point here, and you can cause a sagging. So if you keep that wood perpendicular and upright, that's a great way to store it, and it makes it much easier to sort through and find the piece that you need, because inevitably, no matter how you organize it, if you are using multiple types of wood in one storage area, the piece that you want is going to be the back piece. So that makes it much nicer to sort through and go on with there. Okay, this brings up a good point. Shelving. I have probably down to 2 shelves in my entire shop. And I'm a pretty good sized shop, 24 by 36 feet. I'm not a big proponent of shelving. Generally, the only thing I keep on shelving are items that I rarely use that I keep in the box. So it's basically just shelving to put boxes on, and that's the only thing I use it for. The reason for that being is shelving is just a place for dust and dirt to collect, and there's really no way to keep it clean, and it's just not easily accessible. So there's probably a place for it in certain shops and different people that would use it. To me, not my favorite go-to type of storage. I'm a very big advocate, as I said in the beginning. Cupboards and drawers done correctly are gonna give you the most bang for your buck. And I look forward to taking you guys through my own shop tour here in the near future. Joel will be posting those dates when they come available. We haven't locked it down in stone yet, but I am definitely already preparing for it and getting my shop ready. So, are there any other questions, Joel? Well, since we have no more questions, thank you for your time. I hope this gave you some information or knowledge to design your own shop. And always feel free to come down to Woodcraft here in the Spokane Valley and talk to our knowledgeable staff, and they'll be able to help you make the decisions on what's best for your shop and your particular layout. And have a great day, and we'll see you next time.